It is Monday, February 22nd, 2016, right? Crazy. Today we're talking about indecent exposure and how that has to do with an online marketing sales funnel. So good to have you here, Shecky. Of course, always great to see you. And we got lots of viewers on here today too, which I'm really happy about. And so Shecky, we've been talking about the social media ad genius profit factory, right? Hey, as long as you have your 4 foundations down, which is you have a product, service, message that you can sell, you have your avatar really drawn out, you know, the profit factory, which we're going over now, the 12-step process. We just want to make sure that we can quantify everything. So we've spent a lot of time already. Okay, who's our avatar? Who's our target market? What's outside of a target marketing called an affinity marketing? We've recorded all these videos from outside of the affinity marketing. How do we start retargeting? Now from retargeting, we got to run people over to a landing page. So we're wondering, well, wait a minute. Do we send page traffic, organic traffic just to any website? Is it a landing page? Is it a welcome page? And we're going back and forth. How are we going to name this week? What's our topic really is sending traffic. But before we actually talk about the physical place where we're going to send people, there's some guidelines. And Shecky goes, this is what he does, by the way. Even if we're in a meeting of 4 people, Shecky, I'm going to make fun of you for a second. Even if we're in a meeting of 4 people, he raises his hand and he has an idea. And that's when Shecky really has an idea. And he goes, indecent exposure, the marketer's dilemma. And I'm like, oh, this is going to be good. So Shecky, would you mind explaining a little bit about your blog article and why you decided to title this Blab, the indecent exposure, the marketer's dilemma?
I would be happy and honored to do so. And it's a pleasure to be here. It's interesting because actually just maybe 5 minutes ago in the Insiders Club, we got a very, very common question. And that question is, will Facebook allow, traffic to this affiliate offer? They always seem to be questions about compliance, right? And so the reality is everybody's trying to run traffic to their buy my stuff, get my this, get my that. They're not really getting it. And so I liken that to the guy who's really okay, if I can just be blunt, the guy who wants to get laid. And the first thing he does when he sees a cute girl is he just he flashes, he just opens his jacket. It's just completely indecent exposure. It's here's what I got, let's go, right? And we all know that aside from that,
for that, is that right?
Well, yeah. Aside from it not being the greatest way to get some good loving, it's probably not the most legal thing to do either. And so this is what we're seeing twofold on many of the ad platforms now. They're starting to disallow direct traffic right to obvious landing pages, especially landing pages that are what we call hostage landing pages. In other words, old school internet marketing was such that you send somebody to this landing page and there is no choices. There's no navigation. There's no nothing. Put your name and email in. That's the only thing that you can do. Now, there's nothing wrong with that structure. It's just the timing of when you put something like that in front of somebody, right? So it's like I said, it's akin to the guy just opening up his jacket. Dude, there might be an opportunity to open your jacket and get some good loving, but not right at the outset. Okay, so you got to build some trust. You got to build some familiarity. You got to woo them a little bit, right? So we've been having this really lengthy conversation. And last week we talked a lot about this content ascension model, which is just phenomenal. And it really answers so many different problems and questions. It answers the problem of know, like, and trust. It answers the problem of not being an indecent exposure. It answers the problem of compliance with any of the major ad platforms. It's totally the right way and the more modern way to go in internet marketing, right? And so what it does is with good content, it just ascends your visitors up to an area where it's time to finally show them a landing page. By that point, you've earned the right to put a landing page in front of them. And of course, once you've done it that way and done it correctly, your opt-in rates and conversion rates are far better because you've done the foundational, the legwork first, as it were.
Yeah, a couple of things, Shecky, that I want to add on that are very, very, very important. By the way, I just need to take a quick question. And Shecky, this is a little self-serving. When Shecky and I talk about ideas, If I wear a hat, does that bother you? Very important question. If I wear a hat, just answer on the right-hand side. If I wear a hat, does it lessen the, yes, did something go wrong?
Yeah, just looking right.
It says poor signal where I'm at. Shecky, can you see my face?
Yeah, everything is good. You're coming through loud and clear.
Coming around. So we always do backups of these, right? So Ash is looking. It's because you're in the other room and your Wi-Fi is slower than when it's in here. Thank you. I really appreciate that. So
do I need to go get my hat or something? Am I missing something here?
Somebody sent me an email last week and they basically said, Kurt, I don't know if I can take you serious because of your hat. And you wore a t-shirt and you didn't have a perfect mic. And I'm like, I won't spell right or say the English language right. But thousands of people from around the world have purchased our products and services where we received hundreds of testimonials. So I always just like to ask, does the hat bother people? And if it does, I was going to say, dude, this probably isn't for you. But Shecky, one of the reasons that you named this indecent exposure, I have a hat on. Other people are like, I got a hat on too. And I heard smart people have hats on. And guess what else I heard? I heard people who don't have hats on are smart people too. Wow.
I'm kind of feeling a little bit left out. I'm going to go get my hat.
So here's a couple of things that I want to go over. So Shecky, when you were talking about indecent exposure, it's really good because so many success is not measured by hats. And that is exactly what I told that person. I said, thank you. Your permission is, I don't require your permission to validate that I have an amazing audience that have already helped thousands of people around the world. But I do appreciate your participation in judging me. I didn't get a response back, but one thing I'm really passionate because really I'm really passionate about serving people. And one of the things that Shecky go over and I go over every week, we're like, how do we make sure that we're not doing a disservice to people? Meaning, are we teaching the right things or is it congruent? So for example, the indecent exposure might kind of be a catchphrase of where it's like, whoa, that's kind of direct. Well, it is. And Shecky's 100% right. So many people have been trained from years ago, even some of the high-end clients, 7- and 8-figure clients that we work with, they're like, how do I just send it just directly to a landing page? And I just want to sell something right away. I want to put $1 in. Whoops. See, I got passionate. I'm throwing this around. I want to put $1 in and I want to get $2 out. And it needs to happen tomorrow. Business doesn't work that way. Shecky asks all of our students this question. When is it going to be time for you to move past being a business hobbyist and become a business owner? When are you going to stop treating your business like a hobby and actually treat it like a business? So saying, hey, I'm going to put $1 in and make $2, you can absolutely do that. We have clients you put $1 in and you make $4, but it didn't happen within the first 10 minutes of them running the ad. And it also didn't happen necessarily within the first 15 days that they were running an ad. What we have to do is we want to always remember this. We said this in our breakout session last week. We want to have long-term, scalable, predictable income. So long-term, scalable, predictable income. You should write down those 5 words and say them over and over and over. So you think, okay, can I have long-term, scalable, predictable income if I send people directly to an opt-in that says, I have the best ebook in the world on how to make money? Email. So remember my number 1 rule I talk about over and over and over. Does your ad contribute to the user's experience, whether it's Google, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, whatever, right? So does your ad actually serve people? Very, very, very important. Because the thing is, if you're just sending directly to a landing page and the landing page itself, you're just asking, again, like straight for the date, or you're asking straight for, hey, will you buy my stuff? They don't know you yet. So what Facebook and Google and Twitter and LinkedIn, what they really want is they want to make sure that your content is congruent. So does it better serve your audience for someone you meet for the very first time? Do you send them directly to a sales page that says, hey, learn how to make money, opt in? That's really open kimono. That's really saying, I am exposed. Are you going to say yes or no or not? That's it. Well, on the second end of it, if we look at it like, how do we really court people? Well, if we're courting people, right, a typical sales process, it's going to give us long-term, scalable, predictable income. Why? Well, because Facebook, Google, LinkedIn, and Twitter are going to see, well, wait a minute. Let's say Shecky is the user, right? Shecky's getting information because he goes to their website and he'll read an article for a couple of minutes, but then he might not opt in. But then Shecky goes back and reads another article that's promoted post, but he doesn't opt in. And then Shecky might read another article that's a promoted post because it's around, his content, and he doesn't opt in. But the 4th exposure, let's say he does. If each exposure, simple math, is 25 cents, say 25 cents, right? And he has 4 exposures. That's 4 exposures for $1. Many internet marketers will pay $1 to get a click, a qualified click, because if we've gone through all the other steps with us in the Profit Factory, it's already a qualified click, but they only send it to an opt-in. They only give somebody 1 chance to do business with them. That's it. What Facebook, Google, LinkedIn, and Twitter want is they want you to build a relationship with someone. They want you to come up and say hello. They want you to provide, hey, this is intriguing. They want, for example, like Shecky, they want Shecky to be, hey, you know what? I read this blog. That's interesting. Well, and then I actually liked one of their posts once. Then 2 weeks later, I read their blog. And then a week later, I read their blog, and I signed up for their email. And then 2 weeks later, I got emails. Oh, and then I got an email and saw a blog post and happened to see a retargeting ad on that blog post. Shecky's like, man, these guys are everywhere. They're always giving me great content. It's really helping me out. I'm really curious in what they're doing on this like 32-page, whatever the opt-in is, right? I'm really curious in the webinar. I'm really curious what these guys are talking to. And now you're building a relationship. So, Shecky, you've talked to hundreds of our students, right? How many people have ever told you, Shecky, I saw an ad today, I bought, and I scheduled a call with you so I could talk to you as fast as possible?
It doesn't happen too often. I mean, it has happened, but I mean, that's totally the exception rather than the rule. I mean, I would say that represents probably less than 1% of the people that I talk to.
How many times have you heard out in public, like when we just went to this big convention, I've been following you for months, and then I became a customer when?
Yeah, that's usually the way it goes down. And so it's like, hey, man, I saw you guys on a webinar a while back, and then I jumped on this other training, and I read a couple of the articles that you put out, and then I somehow I got on a Blab with you and Kurt, I don't know. And so, so somewhere along the line, they opted into our list. They still haven't bought anything, right? But they're, as a result, so now they've got kind of multiple channels of the way that we've exposed ourselves to them. Mm-hmm. And now to a point, like they kind of know who we are, and they feel like they're getting some good value from us. So, and, we always obviously explain to people that there's certain advantages, obviously, of being a member of the Social Media Genius family. Mm-hmm. And, recordings and other resources and things like that go hand in hand with the stuff that we're doing right now. So it's sort of like, here's the cake, but if you really want the icing on the cake and all that other stuff too, and all the goodies and the sprinkles and all the stuff that goes with it, so where you're going to get the full experience, then you should become a member, okay? And you get a whole lot of extra value for doing that. That's not to say that they didn't get tremendous value going in ahead of time. That's how we earn the right to make that sale, right? And there's another distinction there that I want to make, and it's something that I talked about in the article that I wrote this week too, is that psychologically speaking, people do not want to be sold to. I mean, you know how it is. If you step on the car lot and the salesman's like, boom, the guy's just like, right. And true, on the other side of things, they don't want to sell. But psychologically speaking, human beings love to buy. Like they love when they can somehow come to the conclusion that it was their decision to buy.
Shecky, did you know the same chemicals that flow through the brain when you do cocaine are actually activated when you purchase something that you feel will make you better? Like women for shoes, for example, or new clothes, or people buying a solution. Same chemicals that are released in the brain as cocaine. But go ahead.
No, it's true. And actually, it's interesting that you say that, because how do you think the colloquialism came to be of the words retail therapy, right? So some people will go out and buy stuff to make themselves feel better. Now, obviously in the world of internet marketing, they will buy courses that they may never even crack open to make them feel like they're doing something and moving forward. And, that's the sad, unfortunate reality about some of the people that are on the other side of that buying equation. However, I'm happy to say that there are many people that actually buy things with the intent of going through them and using them, and they immerse themselves, and I use that word intentionally, into an experience like ours, which is completely immersive, and there's multiple different ways to learn stuff. So kudos to those people who go out and do that and take action. But I do think, and maybe I'm getting off on a tangent a little bit, I think that, look, you can see the nice, background where you're at, and I know you're up in the penthouse above your apartment, and clearly, it's a beautiful view. It's amazing. And clearly I'm in my apartment too, right? So you can see my little, microwave behind me and all that other kind of stuff. So when you're by yourself, right, sometimes it's easy to just kind of be in your own head and get distracted easily with other things like that. So I get it. I've been there. Look, I'm just as guilty of it as anybody else. The real issue there is just obviously staying focused and figuring out whatever it is you need to do to remain focused. And honestly, I know Kurt and I, we were at a really cool event the other night where they talked all about this time management stuff and all that kind of thing. And it was really cool about, grading out like everything you do, including having sex with your spouse, which I thought was a little bit over the top. However, I didn't completely agree with that. I really believe that the way to stay focused, you can do all the time management in the world, but the real way to stay focused is having a very, very strong why. And I know, Kurt, for example, if I can pick on you, because I know you're picking on me, one of your greatest passions is going out and helping other entrepreneurs to become successful. I mean, you and I have done many a bike ride on the trail early in the morning, and that's what we end up talking about. Yep. And it's clear, and it's awesome, dude. It's great, and I'm very motivated by the same thing, but it's great to have something like that gets you out of bed in the morning. So what I would say to everybody on this call, and again, I know I'm getting a little bit off topic here, but
no, this is really good.
What is the reason that you're getting out of bed in the morning, right? And specifically, how does it relate to your market and your customers, right? Like if you sell, I don't know, like just some widget, right? I mean, maybe it's something that's not glamorous or not sexy. I want to challenge you to think about what is it that really about the thing that you sell can make those people's lives better, right?
So Shaggy, there's a couple of things I want to add here because you brought up some really good points, and I want to make sure that we're.
I know I feel like I'm kind of rambling, but go ahead.
No. We are a little bit, but I love you for this. But here's the right path that you're going down that I want to make mention to everybody. So one of the things that I personally do, it's just a personal habit that I have. Shecky knows this, and Ashley knows this as well too. Is I don't take any business calls or anything else before 11 a.m. Central Standard Time. It's always my personal time. That's to catch up on email. But first thing is I get up in the morning and I go on a 10 to 11 mile bike ride every single morning, and I listen to about 3 or 4 different videos. They're actually up on our YouTube channel on how I start my day. It's kind of a mantra on how can I serve the world better? How can history really remember me? And how can I really make sure that what I'm working on really does something better for the world? Now, what I love, and this is a little bit of ego, but it's awesome. I love when people walk up to me in airports and they're like, "Oh my goodness, Kurt, I've watched videos with you and Shecky. I saw you guys on a Blab. I implemented this one thing. Let me tell you what happened 6 weeks later. Oh my goodness, I'm buying my first house because now I know the mathematical equation, how I can scale my business." And that is hands down the best compliment I can ever receive is when someone says, "You said something that I implemented and it changed my life." So every single day, Shecky and I have a schedule how this whole thing happens. Every Sunday, we release a blog. And what we do with that blog coincides what we're training on in the Profit Factory right now. Or what we've done in the past is I've come back from a bike ride, Shecky's come back from a bike ride too, and been like, well, wait a minute. One thing that we talked about with retargeting, we talked a little bit about retargeting, what buttons to hit, but not really the why or how to set that up. We need to train on that this week. Or like this week, we're supposed to be training on landing pages. We could just tell you, hey, send stuff over to something like lead pages or ClickFunnels. But if we don't explain the why or really go through it, it really does a disservice for you. So as I'm on these bike rides every single day, I'm thinking, okay, what kind of service can we provide for our clients that will keep moving them along the path? I didn't say what ad can I run to make sure they opt in today. So if you look at some of the things that we're doing, and we're seeing sales that come in on a their daily basis is, of course, at this point for the kind of volume that we're doing. But what ends up happening is it's very, very, very simple. We talk on Wednesday. This is how we block out our time. We talk about on Wednesday, okay, how did the webinar and training go last week? Great. What do we have for this week? Okay. Great. Shecky, what kind of blog article do you think that you can write that will start to frame the training topic that we know that can best serve our audience this week? So Shecky does that blog article on Sunday, and then we'll send out an email on Sunday for people. Some people just want to read articles who are on our list and don't necessarily buy our products and services. That's fine. If someone implements something that Shecky writes in an article and it changes their business and they don't buy anything from us, it's great. It's fine. Right? That's where we're here to serve our audience. Now, when we do this Blab, for example, every Monday, it's so Shecky and I can record some additional content. But if someone goes to our blog organically, or someone says that they like what Shecky does here and post it out on Facebook or Twitter, and they happen to watch us on a live Blab where we're talking about things, and they come on and ask questions, and they're not opted in or they don't buy, it's fine. It's perfectly fine. because I know people watch over and over. That's why I kind of made the joke about the hat before. Like, does this bother anybody? Because if you watch 4 or 5 of our different sessions and content, you'll know we just really care about adding additional value, not selling. We don't even pitch on this. We just say, hey, if you want to learn more, we have a breakout session that's free every single Wednesday. So what happens is, and I'll post a link in here in a minute, every single Wednesday, we'll post a link so you can get more deep dive information. Notice I didn't say any of this process was you must buy right now or you must opt in right now. We know that people watch our blabs that are not subscribed to our email list. It's okay. We also know that there are people who have subscribed to our email list for 6 months or the last year, and they just watch blabs. They're not taking action or buying our products and services. It's okay too. Because what we do know that has worked consistently for the last couple of years and why we have multiple 7-figure businesses is it really comes down to, look, if you watch a couple exposures to us and you follow our content for a little bit, you'll understand. I'm not gloating, well, there's no other way to say it. I'll just be very open. I don't really care about the money. Shecky doesn't really care about the money. We make money as a byproduct from when we really serve people, and we have some really great stories. So if someone reads a blog article, comes to a blab, opt in, doesn't buy, they will eventually because they'll see the value. And if they don't, that's okay. But we are not walking up saying, you must subscribe, opt in, buy before you join a blab. So we just give people content over and over and over. I mean, Shecky, I know that you've heard this. I've been watching you guys for 3 months. I've been watching you for 6 months. I've been watching you for 9 months, and it wasn't until you and Kurt did that blab on affinity marketing that really made me understand what affinity was, and I wanted to make sure I joined the social media ad genius family as fast as possible. So I'm going to give people just a template here, just kind of a little gift. It's kind of our contact us. Shecky, when we're talking about, because I want to go back to our landing pages, right? So what we're really going to focus on next week even more of, we're going to talk about the exact pages that we're using. You're going to see a lot of this in our breakout session. But Shecky, when we talked about being of service, right? Understanding our why and our service. Your why could be to support your family, it could be whatever. I know that I thought I would just teach people Facebook ads. Once entrepreneurs saying that I was changing their life, it changed everything. So now I really focus on lots of different platforms, providing you guys with some really good content. So Shecky, important as we're talking about this decent exposure, someone gets on, can you give some of your basic kind of guidelines? Should people run a like campaign first to qualify the avatar? Do they send stuff to a landing page? Do they post just a bunch of content on fan pages? I mean, I know you know what we teach inside of Social Media Ad Genius. How do you start building that relationship? Why pull up this next document?
Well, it's a good point. And yes, running a like campaign, if you have a fan page.
Shecky?
Yeah.
Can you do me a favor? I don't mean to interrupt you, but Michael just said something. Will you read that to everybody just because people watch the recording might not say that? Thank you, Mike.
Mike B, it's pretty simple. People will buy when they identify with how the purchase will align with their goings on in their current lives. Absolutely true. Yeah. That's awesome. Thank you, Great. Yeah, that's awesome, Mike. Thank you. So that's true. And the reality is that they're not always ready. They may not even necessarily always know what that alignment is right at that point. The initial pieces of what you're putting out, both content, you could call it a blog or you call it your website, whatever. You can call it your fan page. I mean, there's lots of ways to get out, exposure of your ideas, right? Running like campaigns to a fan page is definitely a very good way to qualify your audience. You find, let's say, 4 interest clusters. I know we've talked about this before, and I don't want to kind of rehash that training, but you figure out some affinity audience of people that might be interested in the conversation that's going on. But all you're trying to do is see if somebody's willing to enter a conversation. Doesn't mean in a like campaign, to an extent, is kind of like a soft opt-in, let's just say. And that's why we like using it as an example, right? It's not really a full open kimono, but it's like, it doesn't really, let's face it, nobody's really giving up a whole lot of personal information to like your fan page, right? I liken it to like if somebody opts in versus liking a fan page, here's the best analogy I can give you of the difference in commitment, right? Go back to 3rd grade just for a minute. And you've got like Judy in the front row. And Judy's the one who's like the keener and teacher's pet, wants to answer every single question, right? So when the teacher asks a question, Judy immediately is like, ooh, 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 ooh. Okay, so that represents an opt-in, right? Conversely, little Johnny is way in the back and the guy is like kind of like slumped over and the teacher asked a question and little Johnny's kind of like going like this because he doesn't really want to be seen. He doesn't really want to commit. Okay. That's the guy that's liking your fan page. So it's not, there's a difference in commitment levels, but at least it speaks to the fact that we might see that somebody's willing to enter into a conversation. Now recognize, okay, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah,
you got something to say?
Yeah, just a real quick analogy. It's kind of like going to a dance, right? So Shecky and I study a lot of social patterns in people. It's very interesting. It's like going to the dance, but being a wallflower and not talking to anybody. At least they went to the dance and they're starting to see people. So just because they like your page doesn't mean that they're fully committed, but at least they're at the party. And at least if you're providing some additional content, it's a way to start getting them involved. They're at least participating just a little bit.
Right. And I kind of, before you go on, I know you got another question, another resource you want to show, but before you go on, I kind of want to flip this around on everybody that's watching this Blab, because I know we've talked a lot about how we do things, and I want to put out a challenge to you guys, right? And we're going to talk about this more on Wednesday on the webinar, how we do this, and specifically the metrics of how we gauge it and all that kind of stuff. But here's where I want to get your thinking patterns. Take what you're selling, marketing, your idea, your product, your message, and just reverse engineer it. Okay, so what would have to happen for your prospect for you to create, and say, take your own, like just dream for a minute and take your own laziness factor out of this, because I know we're all lazy to a certain extent. Take your own lack of resources out of the picture for a minute and just say, like, if I could do anything to create the perfect customer/prospect experience, and I could move them in a direction where there was so much good stuff available to them that they would just totally get to know me, they would totally get to love me, they would totally on their own figure out without any of my pushing that this product is just like game changer for them, right? So that's what I want to encourage you to think about, is just reverse engineer that process. Let's start off with just like a welcome page, for example. What would that first little bit of exposure look like? Well, it's not much. It's just like what Kurt says. It's like, well, just maybe that's just making the commitment to go to the dance in the first place. Maybe it's just seeing that there's actually a dance that even exists. It's just an awareness. That's all it is. It's not a sale. It's not like a comparison to other dances and how this is the best dance or whatever. It's just like, hey, there's this dance, kind of cool. How do dances work, right? What happens at dances? And it's more just like creating awareness. And the good marketers understand that even with those initial awareness pieces, it's unlikely that the very first piece of content you're going to put out is the absolute best one. And the one that's going to, oh my God, it's just going to get retargeted and it's going to be pushed and it's going to escalate people already up. So think about multiple exposure points. And what is it that you can create to just this amazing experience, right? And then from there, write it all down, just dream or put it on your whiteboard, right? From there, you can then sort of look at parts and pieces and start thinking, well, gosh, if I did a piece like that, I could then retarget those people to another piece of content that maybe gave them just a little bit more, like maybe it's just going from the awareness to the dance to like, well, this is kind of what happens at a dance. And then maybe that gets retargeted to like, well, now here's like a couple of cool dance steps that are going to be used at the dance. And then that gets retargeted to like, well, here's actually how to do those dance steps, right? So you see there's a progression to all that. And by the time you've gotten all the way through, you've got a customer that's paid for dancing lessons and asking all the girls to dance, right? Yeah. Or guys. I don't mean to be sexist, but you get what I'm saying.
These are all universal concepts. There's a couple things I want to go over here. JP asked a really good question. He's like, hey, you can provide some actual case studies of clients you worked with on Facebook or strategies you've recommended actually increase or improve the bottom line. Yeah, I mean, JP, we've spent 8 million Facebook ads at this point. We've 37 different industries. For example, like we worked with the San Antonio Spurs. We have small meatball shops that we've helped them sell meatballs all around the world. We've worked with like Hunter Hayes from country music. We've worked with Michael Hyatt. We've worked with people like Evan Pagan, Mike Dillard, Digital Marketer, just had one of the world's largest digital conferences. We've done work for those guys as well too. The world's second most influential YouTube channel, Six Pack Shortcuts. They're one of our clients as well too. It's kind of fun. We work with a lot of the who's who, a lot of people who have top ClickBank offers as well. So we have people who work, for example, like, Jonathan Hudson is one of the world's largest dating offers. Chris Haddad's one of the world's best copywriters. We run some of his stuff as well too. It's kind of interesting. A lot of stuff in the self-publishing industry. We just helped somebody hit a national bestseller list, which is the Urban Monk. We have a lot of friends, actually, we've helped hit the national bestseller list, especially like Ask with Ryan Levesque. We've done some stuff for him. I speak in front of masterminds. Typically once a month. We have lots of case studies. Actually, what I do is I have a lot more testimonials than we actually do case studies, which is interesting because I have lots of strategies at work that have completely been absolutely unequivocally documented, discussed. I mean, I guess there's a reason people ask me to show up. A lot of these masterminds are $30,000 a year, and they want me to come speak to their, to the group of 30 or 40 people on on the strategies that have really worked. Todd Brown builds funnels. He's amazing. We run some of his stuff as well too. The moral of the story is, as long as you know how to run traffic, everything that we're talking about here consistently can work on Facebook, Google, LinkedIn, Twitter. All these are documented inside of Social Media Ad Genius. So you can go check out our YouTube channel that has a ton of insight videos, step-by-step how-to. I always tell people performance speaks for themselves. And, the people like JP will ask me a question, hey, what kind of case studies do you have? Which is interesting. Our performance speaks for ourselves. The last 5 years, our business is 100% referral only. And Shecky knows this, and it's not a marketing line. We turn down more business than we actually take on. And we've actually never needed to advertise. So people will call us and they'll be like, hey, Kurt, can you do me a favor? What kind of, I know I want you to run some stuff in the blah, blah, blah niche. What kind of case study do you have? And I'm like, Ryan Dice told you to call me. So I don't usually spend a lot of time doing case studies that actually prove it out. What I do is I spend a lot of time doing this to train more people on the stuff that works. But JP, I got a lot of documentation for you, a lot of different niches. By the way, JP, if anybody has a chance to check out JP's website, if you look at his profile, I love what you're doing, by the way. I love woodworking. I think what you have going on is great. Visually, it looks amazing. I know you can do really well with some images on Facebook. I just wanted to mention JP, great question. And I really like what he's doing.
And let me just put an asterisk on what you said, Kurt, and in response to JP, look, the smart marketers, the real successful marketers right now are all moving away from the old-fashioned direct response model, right? That old-fashioned, like, just build your list, the money's in the list, right? Everybody is moving more towards this content ascension model, right? And using it to warm their audience. Now, why do you think that's happening? Well, obviously the big ad platforms don't necessarily want to accept ads directly to an opt-in. But again, you have to ask that question, why is that happening? Okay. It's happening because the internet has become gargantuan. Yeah. And Kurt and I were at a conference in San Diego, I don't know, it was a week and a half ago, whatever. And it used to be, and we've all kind of been, anybody that's been in the internet marketing game for any length of time, always sort of understood in the back of our mind that there was this old mantra, the money's in the list, right? So the email list for many years has been this holy grail, right? This was like the currency of internet marketing, right? How big's your list? How responsive is your list? Everything is about your list, right? But that is no longer the currency because the internet has gotten so big and because there's so many distractions, right? The new currency, as Gary Vaynerchuk so eloquently explained, the new currency is attention. And we are all now vying for people's attention. So if you have the right content that can hold people's attention, even for a small amount of time, right? The rest of it can happen very easily because there's some incredible retargeting tools. And just by virtue of getting anybody on yours or now even any website because of the technology, you can then continue to put further and further messaging in front of them just by virtue of cookieing their computer, right? It's really that simple. Now, that's not necessarily the technical explanation, but I want you to get out of this is that the currency of what's happening on the internet has changed from being an email list to being people's attention.
Yeah, I just, Shecky, you and I were at perfect. It's so interesting. I love this business. I really, really do. Someone just contacted me, and we're going to help with one of the world's largest online yoga conference. And then someone just contacted me while I'm on the phone here as well too, where they're having a big food revolution, just awesome things we're going to be doing. Shecky, we were at an event a while back ago, and a mutual friend of ours, Jesse, here in town, and he said something that was really profound, very simple and very profound. And he's on stage, and all these people are there. There's probably about 60 people over at this beautiful house. And he's like, okay, does everyone know where money comes from? Take a wild guess. And people are like, definitely not on trees, from providing value. Money comes from commerce, doing trade. They are doing lots of different things. And Jesse goes, okay, everybody, come in real close. I'm going to tell you the secret. I'm going to tell you where money comes from. Other people's bank account. That's it. Right? And everybody's like, what's that supposed to mean? He goes, look. And it goes back to what basically Mike said, right? When someone finally believes that the value of what you're offering supersedes the value of them keeping it in their bank account, it's that point where people cross and say, I know that when I part with this investment, this money, it will improve my life. So my process for making a decision is very different from Shecky's process of making a decision. It's not right or wrong, unless we're arguing that I'm right. But no, it's not right and wrong, but maybe Shecky wants to read an extra article or two. Now, if Shecky gets on a phone call with someone who's really smart and really good, Shecky always is in my office like, we're buying this. But if Shecky sees it online, he's going to read 4 or 5 or 6 different articles. So he's not going to jump right on it. But if there was a video that said, hey, call me to get your questions answered, Shecky may buy a little bit faster because of his personality, but you don't really know until you test. So people who only test just to a landing page, well, if you've already figured out your avatar, you figured out your targeting, we've spent a lot of time talking about this before, these are really all qualified clicks to your website. Now, I'm going to give you a real quick, because JP brought it up, and then, Michael, I'm going to jump into your question, is, we were talking about case studies. Let me give you a great case study of a client I talked to right before we joined this call. And they go, well, Kurt, our cost per click's a little high right now, and our leads are about at $10 to $14, and we want to get to like that $6 to $7 mark. And I go, look, here's the thing. We don't really know what a good cost per opt-in is until we really figure out what the lifetime value is. So if it costs us $6 to get a lead, and within 7 days we can make that $6 back, we break even within 7 days. So if we knew that we put in, let's say $7 right now, 7 days later we get $7 out, now we have a lead and our money's made back. Anything after that 7 days, we're going to be profitable on, right? So what we want to make sure that we're doing is we want to make sure, okay, what is our lifetime value of our customer? We always want to be making additional products and offers. This is one of the things we talk about in the social media genius profit factory as we go through it. But we always want to make sure we're providing constant value, because we don't know how Shecky's going to make his decision. Does he have to call someone? Does he watch 2 videos? Does he watch 3 videos? Does he attend a webinar? What is that? So our client comes back and says, here's the deal. They're like, our cost per click, it's a little high. And we go, yeah, we're only sending them to the webinar right now. And they go, I know, that's the only thing we have. How do we make sure that we get more people to opt in the webinar? And I go, well, produce 8 blog articles that's supporting documentation to your webinar. So if we're training people how to be, for example, for this client, and I can say this publicly, for this client, what we're doing is we're helping holistic health professionals bring their practice from, instead of working with their hands locally, bring it online so they can help more people all over the world. Well, one of the big things that we found out is when we surveyed those customers is we found out there are a lot of holistic practitioners, and Shecky is very much into holistic medicine. I mean, it's really changed your life over the couple of years. But let's be honest, Shecky, some of the people that you go in and talk to and see, they don't really know how to put their business online. They're really passionate about helping people, but they have somebody else who helps them manage the business aspect and put it online. You could save lives all over the world. However, sometimes they have the limiting self-beliefs of, I don't know if I can go online. I think it's hard. I think I'm too old. I don't know if people will hear my message. Not true. The interwebs is pretty big. So what happens is we say, look, let's send people to your webinar. But if they don't opt in, let's send them to supporting documentation on how easy it is to take your business online. And then have an opt-in, on the right-hand side, just a little ad, and a little ad right below that on your blog that may say, hey, upcoming webinar. Well, and then next week, maybe what you do is you send out another blog article that says, hey, here are the tools. Shecky knows this. People love this, by the way. Here are the tools that we've used to launch our business, or here's the videos, or here's the tools that we've used to really accelerate our business. That's a whole other blog post. So now let's say Shecky is a holistic practitioner. He goes to the webinar at first and he's like, I don't think I really need that right now. Like, I'm not ready for a webinar. Like, I want to have a business online, but whatever those things are that go on in his head, right? I can't do a webinar right now. I can't be on camera. I can't write a script. I don't write presentations. This doesn't work. And then Shecky reads an article on, putting your practice online is actually the hit just 4 or 5 buttons. It's a website and a go to webinar. And then Shecky reads another article of Facebook groups, how we can put people in a Facebook group for a monthly reoccurring charge. And then he reads another article where there's a video of, listen how Bob is 56 years old, who did the exact same thing you're about ready to do. Now, maybe that article is what makes him interested into the webinar. So the cost per lead may not be made right away at, let's just say, $7, but you may be really surprised that what happens is they may go to your webinar page, and then what they do is, they land on your website. Now you start providing supporting documentation. So they read along the story, they feel comfortable with their decision, and when they're ready, they join you. So remember, obviously all the money comes from other people's bank accounts, right? It's pretty easy. But what has a better value to them? The product and service that you're offering, or keeping that in their bank account? So I want to read something here real quick, just Shecky, that Mike says. Mike says, and I got to say one more thing, that Shecky, to go back. We're hearing more about build the story, especially in social blowhorn arena. Are you seeing the story as being a big drawn out into the funnel process? And how far back does the story need to go before it comes numb and repeated nausea? Mike gets brilliant questions and statements for the day award. Shecky, maybe we should start one of those awards. Actually, we are going to come up. I've been thinking through this. We've been talking about internally. We haven't announced this publicly, but every single week we do a breakout session, right? What we want to start doing is rewarding people weekly who take action on that breakout session. We want to have some rewards and reward people who, hey, I learned this, we took action, and hey, look what happened. Mike, let's jump into your stuff here for just a second. Mike, one of the things I'm going to add to, we just got back from a large conference, Traffic and Conversion. Someone on stage who presented pretty much most of the entire time, Molly Pittman, is a really good friend of mine. We had a mastermind with Molly Pittman here in Austin, Texas, where there were 12 other people in the room. And the 12 other people in the room are all buying media, spending at least $500,000 a month in their respective arenas. And these people either have agencies or have products that are in multiple different industries. So basically what ends up happening is they're all talking about how Molly is building a story. Now, so let's take a look at a couple of different stories and kind of ways to answer this. Number one, do you have to have an email responder that's 30 days long that tells a whole long story like Andre Chaperone, and they do what they call autoresponder madness, or a soap opera series, right? You don't have to wait 30 days to sell. Like my personality, I'm very type A personality. So if I see the right information that I require to make a decision, I'll just buy right away. Shecky may see something once or twice. He's very different from my business partner, Tom, who may read 10 or 15 different articles before he makes a buying decision. So what happens is you don't have to have a long, drawn-out story for 30 days in an autoresponder or email, we use autoresponders kind of the same way we talk about retargeting. So what we take a look at is, for example, if I'm targeting, let's say, a social media manager, and I'm targeting them on how to do retargeting. So I'm going to target the social media manager, but also who would employ the social media manager? Well, the CMO. So the CMO is also going to do it. Okay, great. So it's going to be the CMO, the social media manager. Oh, an entrepreneur may want to do it. A small business owner may want to do it. So now I have 4 different avatars I can go over. Molly Pittman covered this in what she calls the ad grid. And Shecky, I'm going to get her permission to use a couple of slides from the ad grid in our breakout session for this week. So Shecky, if you don't mind while I'm talking about the breakout session, can you put the link in there for me for the breakout session? So what ends up happening is if someone lands on the site and they're talking about social media management and they land on a place that's retargeting, well, I just have to have a couple of retargeting articles, 2 or 3, and maybe a video that talks about retargeting and why they should join my retargeting webinar. or why they should check out this next video on retargeting. I like sending people to videos. The reason being is because they get used to my language, my face, and my report. And I want people to hear my voice over and over. So they're like, oh, this is making a lot of sense. So you don't have to start your story to tell your story necessarily about your company. You can start wherever they join the story. So what I do is we have a soap opera sequence, right, where we create some of those open loops. So when people opt in over the course of, I think it's 10 days, they're going to get some different emails with some different content. Well, what happens is after, let's just say 10 days in our funnel, now they're going to start being added to our broadcast email where every Sunday they get that blog article from Shecky. And then on Monday, they get the reminder about the Blab. And then on Tuesday, they get a reminder about the upcoming webinar on Wednesday. I'm not telling a story. I'm just letting them know what's going on in the week. One of the things that we cover in the Profit Factory webinar that I did, and there's a link out over on YouTube. I can send you to the playlist as well too. But one of the things that we talk about is every single week you should have some kind of call to action and an event. Now that event could be a 10% off sell. The event could be a webinar. The event could be a Blab. The event could be something, but it's something that you're saying every single week that you're inviting your users to engage with you. YouTube video, Facebook video, but you should also have a call to action. So honestly, someone may be watching me right now and say, well, wait a minute, Kurt, I love what you guys are saying. Do you mean I can learn how to hit the buttons on my own? Well, yeah, you can register for the Webby down over here, or if you just go to smag2.com, for example. Actually, here, I'm going to give you a get started page, just in case you guys want some, everybody wants some freebies sometimes to get started, which is fine. The other thing is you can even see when I go to smag2.com is this is really our solution in our winter special. Whoop, right there. So see what ends up, I just started, yeah.
With the word start.
Yeah. So what we end up doing is, smag2.com/start, that's going to lead you over to an area where you can join our email list. You can download some free goodies. Or if you go to smag2.com, you can see what our winter special is. See, the thing is, it's a disservice to you if I don't tell you about some of the options that we have that can talk about all the strategy, all the recordings, all the breakout sessions, everything that we can help you with the online forum, and what buttons to push, and some of the clients that we work with, and how you can work with us live on a weekly basis to make sure that everything is going right for you so we can help scale your business. It's a disservice if I just provide free content for 30 days and never tell you about the option of how you can move forward. So, Mike, what I really take a look at is I see how many contact points does it require before someone buys. I treat a qualified click like I treat a qualified lead. So I'll do like a soap opera series, maybe the first 7 to 10 days in email, and I'm going to follow up that same series with retargeting ads. But after that 7 to 10 days, and of course, I'm always presenting an option and an offer for them to buy. Doesn't mean a different offer every day, but it stays along with my theme. I'll give you this real quick thing, Mike, and this is really for everybody else too. I have a friend of mine that does 6 weeks worth of webinar sessions, and they'll do it on 6 to 8 week rotations. The webinar, exact same webinar. Same one. Shecky's heard this trick lots of time, and it works. It's not a trick. It actually works. He changes the title, the first 2 bullet points, and every single week, the webinar is the exact same. Out of thousands of people going through the webinar, is his evergreen. This is interesting. He sells an evergreen solution, but he usually does them live. But they can be evergreen. He's kind of a perfectionist, right? He's brilliant, but a perfectionist. But what he does is it literally, so he'll have a webinar week 1. It's like, I'm just going to give you an example. Learn how you can get unlimited leads from YouTube. Sign up for this webinar. He'd have 3 bullet points on the landing page. There you go. People would or would not opt in. Whether they opted in or not, if they did not buy, he would retarget them for next week. Hey, learn how to get unlimited leads using video. Same webinar, different title, 2 bullet points. Next week, all the non-buys. And anybody who didn't opt in or did opt in, all the non-buys, retargeted again. So, sorry, there's a little construction going on in the background, Craig. I apologize. I'll see if I can move here in a second. The Google Fiber was at my house, and it broke. So they said, you must go upstairs to use the bar area where they're doing construction. Great. So the moral of the story here's what happens. On the 3rd week, he changes the title, a couple more bullet points. It may be something like, learn how to leverage mobile in ways you never have before. It's the same training on YouTube. Now, out of thousands of people who have gone through this process, not one person, not one has come forward and said, wait a minute, this is the same presentation. He's had hundreds of comments that says, thank you for replying week after week and providing with such great content. So as long as you're going down the path, you may even change just the title of the blog post. You may even change just a couple of bullet points. You may talk about a couple of different bullet points to help the buying decision. But I'll tell you one thing that we're doing with the client I mentioned with the practitioners. We already know the avatar. So we're going to send them to the website, and if they want to log in, they can log directly into the webinar if they're a type A personality. Then we're going to send them to a blog post that supports how easy it is for a practitioner to come online. And then what we're going to do is and there's going to be a little ad on the right-hand side of the blog that's going to talk about the upcoming webinar. Then what we're going to do is we're then going to retarget to say, hey, we have an upcoming webinar with these 4 bullet points. 4 bullet points that you won't find on the webinar landing page or that we have in the blog. If they still don't opt into the webinar, we send them to another point that said, here are the tools that we use. Here are 4 things we're going to cover on our next upcoming training. Same thing. So next upcoming training. Same webinar. So we send them back to the webinar. So Mike, I hope that answers the question as well too. I hope that answers. Yeah, sorry about the background noise. So selling scarcity benefits. Yeah, I mean, the thing is here, let me see if I can, I'm going to move here just for a second.
Maybe turn your gain down a little bit too, Kurt, if you can.
Yeah, the problem is I'm on my headset. I'm not on my
okay.
I'm not on my mic. So hopefully that'll be a little bit better. So here's the thing: is remember with Facebook or Google, they don't want you to sell on sell on scare tactics, but scarcity is really important. So remember for those of you who don't know, a lot of people don't, but for those of you who don't know, I used to run call centers. That was my background before I got online. So it was always about language inside of call centers and literally training thousands of people how to connect and sell and talk on the phone, right? So one of the things that we want to be able to do is people will typically not buy because they don't have enough information to buy or understand the urgency of why they should be buying right now. That's when we kind of go into the scarcity of it. Basically just saying, take action now because it will solve this problem. One of the things, Mike, just to give you an idea, at the end of webinars, whenever I present on stage, whenever I speak on stage and I'm selling on stage, Shecky has heard this 1,000 times and it's very true. We get to the very end and I said, look, one of the biggest things that you can do in life is, hang on one second. Hey, Ashley, can you come here? Important. Sorry, someone's coming over to fix something. This is why I have a personal assistant that takes care of me. She's amazing. Whoops. So here's the thing: is people either don't have enough information to buy or they don't understand why they have to buy right now, right? So one of the things that I do at the end of all of my presentations is I make sure that I say the following. Can you call this person back and take care of this for me? Thank you. I always say this. Now it becomes for the point, and the biggest power that we have as humans is the ability to choose. Right now, you've heard the presentation, the features and benefits, and everything that I know that can help you. We've helped thousands of people around the world. We've had hundreds of testimonials from all around the world. So now it comes up for you to make a decision. What we have found, entrepreneurs who make fast decisions and implement quickly are typically the ones that see success the fastest. The wait and see plan to see what happens has never been effective for any of our students. Actually, they don't really become students because the wait and see plan just doesn't really work. Now, here's what's going to happen. In the morning, you're going to wake up and you're going to feel one of 2 ways. One, nothing changes. Just doesn't. That's what happens right now. Or you wake up tomorrow and you look in the mirror, you look at your significant other and say, hey, I made a decision last night that's going to change our life, and I'm really going to start working and implementing this information because I've seen that they've helped thousands of other people. I've seen hundreds of other testimonials, and now's the time for me to make the decision to actually do this and move forward. So notice I didn't say the price is going to go up at midnight. It's time for them to make a decision. But we do offer bonuses that do time out to help people make the decision. Sometimes people want a couple of extra free things and bonuses. Sometimes people just have to be told, deal ends Sunday at midnight. You know, when we do launches, many people may know this, but what happens is we may do a promotion for 2 weeks and then, or let's say 10 days. Then we say, okay, everybody, right now is the time to buy. Right now is the time to buy. So people will start buying this day and they'll say, okay, we have 5 days to buy at this special price. And here's actually the way that looks. People will buy right here and then it starts to get slow 1, 2, 3 days in. The last 4 hours, like we will send out emails at 8 o'clock. All right, 4 hours, we're going to close. 4 hours, we're going to close. We'll get 60 to 70% in our last 4 hours because people feel they're going to miss out if they don't take action. So scarcity helps in, hey, make a decision now. Scarcity helps in, hey, here's some additional. Mike, I like hanging out with you. She's like, there's some emotional NLP. Yes, that is neuro-linguistic programming. For you guys who don't know who that is. And it's really effective. Can be used for good, can be used for evil. Never used it for evil. But what I can tell you is Shecky knows I'm very passionate about if someone's saying, hey, Kurt, should I join the Social Media Ad Genius family, or what do you think? With passion, I'm like, unequivocally, it'll change your life. Why? Not because I'm just saying that, because I've seen it. It's helped hundreds of other people. I've seen the proof. So the only thing standing between you and your destiny and what you're going to do with it is you being able to make a decision. I know it works. So I have no problem telling you, click that button and buy right now. Chuck, you want to add anything to that? You know how passionate I get about this stuff.
I like Mike's questions, and I think, it still goes back to what I was saying before a little bit about reverse engineering, whatever it is you're marketing and promoting. But the story itself just needs to be, it doesn't have to be this lengthy story. It could be a lengthy story. Like you say, there's retargeting, there's email lists, there's lots of ways to do this. But the question becomes, what's going to be compelling for your audience? When you really start breaking down the biggest pain point or solution that your prospect is looking for, what's the sequence of events, a logical sequence of events, and actually logical and emotional sequence of events that you could take them through that would lead the horse to water so that they can decide to take the drink. That's really all it is. And I think a big word that needs to be mentioned in there with all that is congruency. So what works in the e-commerce market when you've got a product that's providing a solution may be different than like what we're doing, where we're helping people achieve online success. We're solving a different problem than what somebody else is doing, if they're selling a bag of oranges, right? So it's not always the same thing. But I think if you follow the same sequence and provide things that are really, really congruent to your audience and what it is that they're going to relate to, you're going to win every single time. And you kind of touched on it too, Kurt. And the one thing that I want to add is just a distinction is that you use the word lead almost synonymously with capturing an email address to an extent. And again, if I go back to that distinction I made earlier, that's not necessarily the case. Yes, we could say that capturing an email address is a lead, but what if somebody just landed on an article and you could pixel them and you could cookie them and then retarget that people? And so I look now actually as somebody just hitting a piece of content as a soft lead. And so again, the money is not necessarily in the list anymore. The money is in who are you getting to pay attention.
Yeah, it really is. I'm going to go ahead and share just so everybody sees. This is where we have all of our recording for Blabs, and you'll see the very first video is the Profit Factory. And basically what we have for the Profit Factory here is everything that we just talked about. See, most people, they'll send stuff into a landing page. They'll follow up for 7 days. They'll send in a retargeting to make them buy, and then that's it. Well, we've created the Social Media Ad Genius Profit Factory where it takes people step by step by step by step, 12 different steps to make sure, okay, how are we building the right avatar? How do we make sure we're targeting right? Are we sending it to the right page? What's our follow-up? Now, most people only go through really the first 6 steps. That is, they go into an opt-in page, they opt in, there's a follow-up, either they buy or they don't, and they stop. See, what we do is we teach, hey, look, now that they've gone through your follow-up process, now every single week, there needs to be a weekly event. There needs to be a weekly call to action. There needs to be a weekly time where you're actually saying, hey, look, we have features, products, we have additional products, services, and we're going to explain this as we keep on going through the training. And then we say, okay, look, now that we've started to quantify the follow-up of these additional products and services that we're starting to offer, right? What are the expanded products and services? And once everything's set up, this thing grows like a snowball because the artificial intelligence builds and grows everything. So, Shecky, I know we're a little on time. I have to actually run to another meeting. So what I've done here real quick is I've put in, there's a link you'll see here, Social Media Ad Genius or SMAG2 .com/Webby. Now that /Webby is going to get you registered for the breakout session. Remember, the breakout sessions is where Shecky puts together this great presentation. We have links. We show you, here are the websites we use for landing pages. Here's some great examples that we have for landing pages. Here's what we would suggest we would do. Here's what we wouldn't do. The training, the breakout session is really where all the deep diving training comes in. This is really just discussion around the topic. Now, anybody from the general public can join live, and what's going to be able to happen too is You'll find out more about the Social Media Ad Genius family if you would like to join on the breakout session. We'll give you information about that. Again, it's not a pitch session. It's actually just to record all the content. All of our members of our Social Media Ad Genius family actually get access to all the recordings. All the recordings inside of our Profit Factory are valued well over $1,000. It's what we use for all of our $10,000 clients, the clients who come in, first month's 10 grand to us. What we do is we walk you step by step through the processes. So there's a lot of deep dive inside that we go over. Moral of the story is just sign up for that breakout webinar. Again, the recordings are only for members, but show up live. You'll see the blogs that we should start posting every Sunday. You'll see this. You'll get updated on this type of content. Shecky, the content gets better every week. We're having great success stories. And again, we're just wrapping this up. I just want to tell you how much I appreciate you, Shecky. Thanks for coming on the Blab. Sorry about the t-shirt and the hat, but I think we delivered enough content today. I'm telling you, this breakout session is phenomenal.
I appreciate that, Kurt. I could tell everybody. I'm kind of looking up at that, the top bar, because you can see the little icons of everybody that's on the Blab, and I want to thank everybody for coming. But I want to encourage each and every one of you to come on Wednesday, because I can tell you that today's conversation is really just kind of like the broth around the bone, right?
Yeah.
Wednesday is the bone and the meat and all the good stuff. And I can tell you, I'm almost done putting all the slides together. And this week is especially juicy and rich with content. I mean, this week alone could stand on its own as its own product. I mean, there's a lot of really, really great stuff in there. And so I want to encourage you all to come. There's no charge to come. Yeah. Obviously the recordings last out there forever if you're part of the SMAG family, but if you're not, come anyway. There's going to be links and resources and tools. We're going to take you through kind of the secret sauce, as it were, that we use to move people through this ascension model and make some pretty big distinctions between, what welcome pages are, what comparison pages are, what landing pages are, how they should look, best practices. I mean, it's really, really a content-rich Webby. And that said, I'm glad the screeching that's going on your side, Kurt, is not the voices in my head. So,
yeah, not at all. Not at all. Right. All right, everybody. I appreciate you all very, very, very much. Thanks again. Join us in the breakout session. You see the link on over there. If you want to just jump into Social Media Ad Genius family, you can do that as well too. But again, thanks everybody. Really appreciate you. You guys have a great week. We look forward to seeing you on the webinar on Wednesday, or at least in Social Media Ad Genius land here shortly. Thanks everybody.
Have
a great day.
Appreciate you. Yeah. Bye-bye.